As yet another pro-Palestine march disrupted central London on Saturday, documentary filmmaker Jocelin Weiss says that she saw a swastika sign carried by alleged Hamas supporters. But when she challenged the watching police officers to take action, this is what she was told.
You'd like to walk with me because I can point these people out to you. And again, I was told when I asked that a swastika was not necessarily anti-Semitic or disruptive of public order. That doesn't seem right to me.
Everything needs to be taken in context, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a context of
But why does the swastika need context?
This is, of course, the same symbol that the Nazis proudly wore as they massacred more than 6 million Jews just decades ago. I can't imagine any context that would make its use in modern Britain acceptable. But I'm delighted now to say that I am joined by Jocelin. Jocelin, thank you very, very much. Could you just explain to us exactly what happened there, really? So you saw swastikas, did you, or you saw them around the place?
Thank you so much for having me on. So I did see a few signs with swastikas on them. But before I say anything, I just want to make clear, because I think some things have been sort of misrepresented. What I'm not trying to do is criticize the government in any way. The Met Police are one thing, but I know you all don't like Keir Starmer. I really admire the effort that he's taken to combat anti-Semitism on the left compared to the complete lack of effort from Joe Biden. And that's one of many reasons that I like living here. Because a lot of people seem to think that I flew in for a weekend and don't in fact live here. I do live here. I'd like to continue living here because the government is at least kind of trying. But yeah, back to the protest. So I was walking sort of alone because I was with the sort of pro-Israel counter-protesters, and some behavior I saw was making me a bit embarrassed. I don't think we should be singing to their level of these hate marchers at all. I think we should be really dignified. And I saw some behavior that was making me, I just needed to walk on my own. And I sort of thought maybe, I'd be a little undercover. But people started to guess that I was sort of like, I guess, an infiltrator, so to speak. But one guy had a poster. There was a small swastika on it. It was a picture of Netanyahu, basically, with a Hitler mustache and a swastika. And I saw a lot of disturbing posters, but that one in particular, I asked him, I said specifically, I was like, where did you get that? And he said, they printed a bunch of them out at another march. Basically, he said they handed a bunch of them out. So these flyers with swastikas on them and depicting Netanyahu, who, again, I don't even like, with a Hitler mustache and a swastika, these are in circulation. I'm inclined to think that they are from the socialist worker who are playing a heavy hand in this, and no one's talking about them as an extremist group, even though they are. But yeah, that's what I saw. Okay. And I reported that to police because I was overwhelmed and I was disturbed, and I was told that that was the action that we should take when we see a sign that is anti-Semitic.
Okay, and so the police officer, as we've seen in this video now, and as millions of people have seen worldwide in this video now, appears to be holding a cup of coffee and I think trying to explain to you that the swastika is all about context. Can I just ask how that made you feel?
I think as far as the coffee is concerned, it was a long day, right? I don't want to read too much into that, but I felt shock, really. I was just shocked that conversation happened, had to happen. The funny thing is, I didn't even bring my sign because I didn't really want to draw attention to myself. And that's the irony of all of this. But I saw that and I just thought someone has to film this because he said that to me. And mind you, by the time I spoke to him, I had spoken to several other officers who said they didn't have the authority to arrest that person. So I had to go up the line. And by the time I'd spoken to him, I'd already spoken to another officer who had also told me that the sign needed context. And I said, and my phone was dead. I said, I need someone to film this because I just couldn't believe that it had just happened.
Can I just, not to cut across you, but I think that's a vitally important point, right? Which is that you had then gone to other officers, said, swastika over there, or I'd quite like you to do something about this. They then said they don't have the power to arrest that person. It's all about the context. And you'd then gone right up the chain to the person that they all pointed to say, if you want something done about it, here's your man. And he's giving you that response. I mean, that implies there's quite a big problem there.
Right. And I part of me almost wanted him at any point to sort of take a step back and think, well, perhaps I'm a bit wrong. I mean, it's a swastika, right? It's a swastika. But no, he kept going. He just sort of as I said in another interview, he basically took out a metaphorical shovel and kept digging the hole even deeper. And that's what surprised me most of all. Like, I kept asking him directly, in what context is a swastika, especially a swastika accompanied by a Hitler mustache on an Israeli politician, again, who I don't even like, on a Jewish person, in what context is that not anti-Semitic? And at any point, he could have said, well, I suppose you're right, but he didn't. And he kept I was just very surprised. I'm still just surprised and in shock by the whole thing. I suppose in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have been, considering the whole, River to the Sea on Big Ben fiasco. But I'm very surprised. I'm still surprised this all even happened. But I had to have someone film that because I just couldn't believe what he had said.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, it's good. It's a good job somebody was filming it, right? It is. Can I just put to you what the Met have said? I'm going to paraphrase what the Metropolitan Police have said. They've insisted that the video was part of a wider 10-minute interaction. It's refusing to share the full footage. It said that the woman was concerned about had supposedly already been arrested for a public order offence in relation to the placard. So that's what they're saying about it. I understand that you obviously have a different version of events there. Can I just ask, as a Jewish person yourself, how do you feel on the streets, on a Saturday or when these things are taking place at the moment and these marches, really? And, we hear politicians saying, it's time that the police crack down on this. We hear the police every single weekend or every other weekend, they're tweeting out, we've got a robust plan in place for these marches. People who call them hate marches are derided and all of this stuff. I mean, what's your honest interpretation of where we are at in the country when it comes to policing this kind of anti-Semitism? Right.
So a couple of weeks ago, for the past several months, I've completely avoided central London on weekends, like most Jews, like a lot of Jews. And a couple of weeks ago, I decided, I should stop being scared and, mock these people. But I went to one of these marches with an Israeli filmmaker who is not Jewish, who's Druze, which is yet another Middle Eastern minority. And we went, and on the surface, it was quite peaceful, like it was quite calm. But they were handing out this hate propaganda, these rags, were basically these pamphlets that talk about how Jews are the root of all evil. And again, it's the socialist worker that prints out all this stuff. And so on its surface, that march was not violent. But again, they're handing out this hate paraphernalia. So it wasn't a violent march, but it was still a hate march. And if those were, the only marches that I had seen, I understand where the confusion lies if people don't know any better. This march this past weekend, that was without question a hate march. I think it's kind of like BLM, where some of the protests were violent, some of them were peaceful. But they are, in the case of these marches, I think they are still all hate marches. But I think that's where the confusion lies, and that not all of them get to this level of chaos. And so I think it's not really a one-size-fits-all rule.
Well, I find it absolutely remarkable. Someone like yourself, you well know that this has been going on now for months. The police have had months to get their backsides in order when it comes to just below the surface. There's a lot of this propaganda going around. I've been to some of these marches. I've filmed it. I've been there myself. I find it remarkable that a lot of the establishment media seem very reluctant to get involved and actually, go and interview people undercover and find out what their views really are on Jews and on Israel and all of that. Because the second you scratch the surface, it does appear, Jocelyn, that there is a very worrying undercurrent, no?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. And I think maybe there are some people who show up to these things that do genuinely want peace, but that wasn't really the vibe that I got. I also resent these efforts to paint this as, it's only the Muslim community. I'd say at least this past weekend, it was 50-50. There's a lot of, trust fund Marxists, a lot of white kids in keffiyehs. It's quite a diverse coalition, not in a good way, but I think there is a problem. But it's just a shame because, again, I keep telling, all of my friends back in the States and my friends in Israel even tell me, London looks so scary. London is just full of terrorists. But that's just not. London is such a beautiful city. I really love living here. There's a beautiful Jewish community. It's thriving and the architecture is great. The museums are great. The weather's terrible. But I love so many things about London. But these protests, everyone around the world is seeing this coverage. right? This is what people
Global Britain,
think of
right?
London now, and it's not fair.
Yeah, global
to the
Britain.
city.
And this is one of the many things about it that annoys me. I'm non-Jewish, but it annoys me. This stuff goes around the world, right? And people get this impression. Jocelyn, can I say thank you very much for coming on and giving us your time this evening. Good luck. I hope that, everything manages to stay safe for you and that you don't have an experience like this again. That is Jocelin Weiss there, who is a documentary filmmaker, has given us the time this evening.